big part of what makes tonight go. And to begin with, I'm going to introduce one of our sponsors, Russ Childs from Plan Member Securities.
I should stand on my tiptoes. Thank you for the applause. I'm not used to that, so thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for having us this evening, and we're very, one of the things that I look at being a graduate of public education is that it means a lot to me, and my sons are both graduates of public education, and we feel very strongly that I think kids today maybe look at things a little bit differently, as all of us probably know. But the bottom line is that without public education and what all of you do on a day-to-day basis, we wouldn't be what we are. And so thank you very much for that. I'm really part of the management team at Plan Member Securities, and so with us tonight we have a couple of our advisors that actually at the point of that they'll sit down with you and advise you on the different things you can do, from insurance to annuities to 403B accounts to 457 accounts. The list goes on and all the nomenclatures that we in the investment business talk about. But I'd like for them to just stand real quickly. So Alex Burnham. I think I see him there. So I think Dan told me I had like 30 minutes, so I'm going to talk really slow. but no, I'm just going to give you a brief overview of really who Plan Member Securities is. So Plan Member Securities, if you've ever seen us, we're up on the bluff, kind of as the 150 and the 101. They're in Carpinteria, so anytime you're in the neighborhood, stop by. Say hello. We always have some type of beverage for you to drink and have some conversations. But we were started in 1992, and the interesting thing about Plan Member is that our founder, a guy named John Zeal, who's still our CEO. So John Zeal, the reason he started the company was, at the time, he was a Kidder Peabody representative, and I think actually he didn't really like it, but his father was an educator. His father was an educator and came to John and said, "Hey John, I've got this 403B thing." Does anybody have a 403B account in the room? Should see a lot more hands than that, by the way. But bottom line is that he wasn't happy with the person that was servicing his account, so John said, "Well, let me take a look at that." And so in 1992, John launched Plan Member Securities, really based on trying to help you as educators become better at retirement planning. And so John started the company then. And if you're familiar with any type of independent financial services firms, what happens when they start out is they need money, right? They need dollars to help them fund the companies. And a lot of times what ends up happening is they get private equity or venture capital type dollars for the company. But John decided to do it a little bit differently. In 2013, we created a strategic alliance with a company called AXA Equitable, which is one of the largest insurance companies in the world. And so that helped us from not having to deal with the world of private equity money or venture capital money. And so John's idea was to create a company that in reality is a full service company from the 403B, 457 world standpoint. So if you want to buy a mutual fund, if you want to buy an annuity, you want to have a managed money account through an advisory account, you certainly can do that. And so Plan Member over the years has had a lot of different, what I call credibility, pieces and newspaper articles and that sort of thing. And so right now we work with 20,000 different schools and nonprofit organizations across the country. We have 500 advisors with 30 different branch offices across the nation. And we're within we were just in Plan Sponsor magazine recognized as one of the top 4 403B companies within America. And so I'll kind of close, and since I'm now running out of the 30-minute period of time that I had to start off with, but I want to thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you this evening. We do have a booth right out the doors. We have all these fabulous prizes that are sitting on the table that you can certainly take advantage of. And I know Alex and Jeff would be glad to visit with you. So thank you very much again.
Russ, that was 3, not 30. I don't know if you heard me properly. Next up, we have our former Ventura County Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Chuck Weiss.
Good evening. I have the honor this evening of saying a few words about Dr. James County. In case you don't know, he passed away March 2nd of this year. He was one of my mentors in my career, and he was in the first class of the Educators Hall of Fame. Jim was a gentleman, a husband, a father, a grandfather, a great-grandfather, a Sunday school teacher, a barbecue chef, a fisherman, an athlete, a veteran, a teacher, a coach, a counselor, a scholar, and a visionary educational leader. Though Jim was born in San Francisco, he grew up in Ventura. He played basketball and baseball at Ventura High School. He was in the 1949 undefeated CIF championship basketball team. He served in the Army Counterintelligence Corps in Japan following the Korea conflict. He graduated with a master's degree from Whittier College and a doctorate from USC. He served as a teacher, a coach, and a counselor at Ventura High School, where he had gone to school, and was a dean of boys at Buena High School. He came to the county office as an assistant superintendent and was appointed county superintendent in 1969. He served as the Ventura County Superintendent of Schools for 24 years, until 1993. Think about those years. On the heels of the Civil Rights Movement and the assassination of President Kennedy, Lyndon Johnson became president and proposed the Great Society Agenda in 1964. It took years to pass the bills to implement all of the ideas of this new concept of empathy for the poor. An all-out war on poverty was cast in that time, and trying to break the cycle of poverty for families. Medicare and Medicaid was created at that time. Head Start and educational reform was started at that time. The Elementary and Secondary Education Act was created. Preschools, special programs for children living in poverty, money for libraries, textbooks, and special education services all started at that time. Support for the arts and humanities also began at that time. And believe this or not, environmental initiatives were started at that time, protecting from wildlife and rivers, and the first Motor Vehicles Air Pollution Control Act was written at that time. Consumer product safety was done, and Immigration and Naturalization Act was passed. It was a time of huge change. Additionally, during this era, historic lawsuits and court cases spawned school desegregation, special education courses, migrant education, bilingual education, women and minority rights, and Job Corps and work training. All at this time when Jim Cowan became county superintendent. He was undaunted by these challenges early in his superintendency at 38 years of age, quickly becoming the leader of educational reform in this county. First thing he did was he negotiated with the federal government for the land at the Camarillo Air Base. A portion of it came to the Community College District, a portion to the Oxnard Union High School District, and a portion to the County Office of Education to serve special needs students. He served as the first superintendent of record for Fillmore Unified School District, Conejo Valley Unified School District, Oak Park Unified School District, and Moore Park Unified School District. In this county, Jim started county office support for the Elementary and Secondary Education Act for libraries and for textbook selection. He started special education programs for moderate and severe students that would serve all the districts in Ventura County, including the current Phoenix School and Gateway Schools. He started the regional occupation programs. He started bilingual education support. and many other groundbreaking educational programs. During his tenure as Ventura County Superintendent of Schools, he was president of the California County Superintendents Association for 2 terms, and he had significant impact on county office services throughout the state. He chaired what was called the Cowan Commission. And what they did is they studied to make sure that every county in the state could serve the districts in their county. And as you know, there are many small counties in the state. So what they did is they paired small counties with medium-sized counties to make sure that everyone got the benefit of the services, no matter how small their district was. Dr. Cowan was county superintendent when Proposition 13 passed. This proposition reduced the amount of funding for education that came from property taxes and resulted in the first ever district bankruptcy in the state of California. It was not here in Ventura County, it was in the Bay Area. But it spawned legislation that put county superintendents in an oversight position over all the school districts in the county to make sure that they didn't go bankrupt. Jim always had a positive attitude and built positive relationships throughout the county by serving barbecues at school district functions. Dr. James Cowan was a gentleman, a husband, a father, a grandfather, a great-grandfather, a Sunday school teacher, a barbecue chef, a fisherman, an athlete, a veteran, a coach, a counselor, a dean, a scholar, and a visionary educational leader. And now, he's an angel. Rest in peace, Jim.
And now I will read a complete listing of those inducted posthumously and who have passed away since their induction. Following the list of names, we will ask that you remain silent as we pay a tribute to these most prestigious people. Wilma LaRose Turchek, Thomas O'Neill, Arnell Hankins, Elmont Michelson, Patrick Rooney, Richard B. Haydock, John Devine, Andy McEwen, Tom Reagan, Stephen LaFave, Barbara Collins, Joe Parada, Ed Phillips, Bill Seaver, Fran Berman, Madeline Medema, Gerald K. Swanson, and Gordon Woods. Please bow your heads as a tribute, please. May your work here never be forgotten.
All right, well, welcome once again to this year's induction dinner. How many of you are attending for the first time ever? How many of you have been here multiple times? Outstanding. Well, this began back in 2007. That was the first Hall of Fame induction that was taking place, and so I guess we're on year number 13 here. For myself, about 5 years into that, it was the first time I'd ever heard of it, and I thought, wow, there's a Hall of Fame for teachers? That's awesome. I mean, you usually reserve that for athletes and entertainers and such, so when I first found out about that was pretty neat, and I immediately thought, I have someone I'd like to nominate. So I ended up nominating my high school calculus teacher by the name of Keith Barker at Royal High School, and I was fortunate that year to give his presentation speech, and it was quite an honorable evening, and since then I've been back a couple times. Another one of my teachers was inducted last year, And this continues to be an awesome event, and I'm very impressed by what Darren Parent and his group has put together. Let's give them a hand for all their work. It's been a lot of effort to honor the fine educators that we're going to see here tonight. Tonight we're here to celebrate Nancy Bowman, Mary Samples, and John Walker. I would like to next introduce the founder of the Ventura County Educators Hall of Fame, Mr. Darren Parent.
September 2005. Mike Morgan and myself sat down with Chuck Weeks. My self-image was in my shoes. I had to have Morgan with me because who the heck was I? Here's the mighty superintendent of the county. Great idea. You guys can do it. He started talking about people he knew and used the word extraordinary. And Dr. Weiss, whether they realize or not, gave us that word. That's what a Hall of Fame inductee is. Ordinary is just you come in, you do your job, and go home. 3:30. Extraordinary is right here in front of you. So John Walker going out and getting a teacher credential. Not that he would ever use it, but he wants to know what those teachers in his classroom went through to get all the courses, do all things, get their credential. So Mary Sample staying hour after hour, doing the things, handing the ball in a fullback, but being that fullback and just getting every little bit done that needed to be done. So Nancy Bowman, that maybe things didn't always go perfect, but she just kept plodding away. Next thing you know, she has the answer. The awards are great, the awards are nice, but the hundreds of lives that each and every one of these people have touched. But let me tell you something. There's a difference between a top draft pick and a Hall of Famer. Tom Brady's selecting to figure out. You need Hall of Fame something. I bet you're going to get your Hall of Fame right before you get this. I want to bring up somebody briefly. Our teacher of the year for 2019, John Eric Sand. Come on, John.
Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Jan Eric Sand, and I too have been given 30 minutes, so please do this. I'm kidding. I want to begin by just sharing how thankful I am to be here this evening. I know that I should really quote Socrates here. In a modified way, we know for sure how little we know. And there's two things that I'd really like to convey in this message, and the first is that middle school students are impressionable, also gullible. And the second thing that I know for sure is that everyone in this room has had a significant impact on children's lives. That's a very powerful thing. So the fun story is in my first year of teaching, let's all take a walk down memory lane first year. And I remember my wife, seeing me in a downtrodden mood, came back from Universal Studios with an Oscar. And this little replica golden Oscar was given to me and it said "World's Greatest Teacher" on it. The best part is I started putting it on my desk in my classroom, and the students asked me if it was real. So of course I told them it was. And from that moment on, I knew that even if I can't plan for every moment, the fact is we're gonna get through it. And my heart's in the right place, and that's, I want to make an impact on the kids. The second thing, as I mentioned, which is so much more important, is that all of you have had a significant impact, and still do, on children's lives. And that's such a powerful, powerful thing. When I was transitioning from the military and trying to find my way, I enjoyed the business and private sector, but there's nothing as intrinsically rewarding as serving in a classroom. So with that being said, it would be a mistake if I don't thank my wife for her support. She's now a high school counselor herself in her first year, and the stories that never end is probably exactly how I sounded in my first year. So thank you, Melina, for the unwavering support. Thank you to my school principal for the unwavering support. Our superintendent, the same. You really lead by example, and that to me is so important, and I hope that I can emulate that and do right by you. When I was invited to this evening's event, I was so proud to see Dale Ackerman's name as an inductee into the Ventura County Hall of Fame. Spending time in my classroom and having his presence as well as Kurt Luff's was having such a wealth of knowledge, and I know between the three of us, we'd figure out a way to always do our best. And your impact, you both have just bestowed upon me and from my father, it's incredible. So to everyone here, you are so special and so powerful, and I appreciate all of your achievements. I really do. To be a part of this is a really special thing. So I hope to continue to carry that torch for years to come and do right by all of you. And thank you to the Ventura County Hall of Fame for hosting such an event and bringing these powerful individuals together. So I'm just a small part of it, I really am. But thank you, I'm so honored to be here. So thank you, Darren and your team.
I had these. Nancy, you want to come up here, please? Just for a moment. Nancy Bowman. All right, Bowman. Folks, I've got this box of Cracker Jacks. That's yours. Very samples. Come here. Now, Commandant Walker, Stacy, Mike, come here. Come on. He's a Marine, he's got to follow orders. Take a look at John Walker's table tent, that's the Commandant of the Marine Corps flag on. He's honorary Commandant tonight. You take this to Commandant Walker. This is what you do. I feel like turkey today, Dr. Scrooge, so I'll try to explain this now. Unwrap the paper. Hold the box. On the bottom of the box is some red duct tape. You hold that duct tape, then you pull the box up. You do it any other way, you're going to have a hard time opening that thing. It's the only box in here. What the whole thing's in for a box?
Darren, we can't hear you. Speak into the microphone.
Yes, ma'am.
Or move the microphone.
Speak up like this. Thank you. Just tear it open like an envelope. Just tear it open. It's their Hall of Fame ratings. Yeah, you saved that. That's mine, right? Seriously. The athletes, the Deion Sanders, the Joe Montanas, they have to be kept academically eligible for one of these three. If they don't have a certain SAT score, they have to turn down that scholarship for Notre Dame. So tonight we honor those who keep those superstars academically eligible. And John Eric is in the trenches of doing that right now. So I thank all of you for what you've done. And I want to thank our board. Linda Valdez, please stand up. Billie Jean Provenzano, please stand up. Our Vice President, Kyle Yates, stand up, please. Let me tell you something. Back in 2016, I wasn't at the event. Hard to believe. I'll be brief. We had somebody laying out a program and redoing our website. This guy here, Kyle Yates, he wasn't on our board. But when I was in the ICU, Cindy went to my house, found the Hall of Fame rings. She knew Kyle was stepping up. He showed up to the event. Jeannie Adams and Chuck Weiss were here with Linda Valdez. They saved that event. I was in the ICU. These people are awesome. They make this organization run. That guy right there is a John Elway All-Pro for this organization. He laid out this program. He redid the website. Linda Valdez brings certain skills and talents that very few could. And she is a quiet, calm, collective voice. And Linda's great. And then you have Billie Jean. I can't say enough good things about Billie Jean. Wedding planner by career, and really, every one of these people that leads this organization is extraordinary, but we don't do anything special but serve and serve here. God bless you all. I want to bring up Simona Mondiente Papadopoulos, the keynote speaker.
Thank you very much. Dear all, it's an honor to be here tonight with the elite of the most respectable profession ever, educators. I want to thank in particular Darren Parent for giving me the opportunity, inviting me address these remarkable educators that have been awarded tonight. And a special thank to Billie Jean, who not only introduced me to these special people, but made me an influencer for the Beverly Hills Fashion Society. Thank you, everybody. As you can probably understand from my accent, I'm not a local. I come from a place very far away from here, a small city in the south of Italy called Caserta. But education, it was opened my mind to different culture and made me today an international lawyer. I have the utmost respect for educators because I was raised by two of them. My mother was an English teacher and my father a college director. When I was a little girl, I remember I was probably 10 years old, my mother used to tell me a story. She told me, you know, Simona, in this ancient Greece, there were this old man who became famous to be wise. And today we can call him philosophy or wisdom, we don't know. And he taught to the world that there is only one real evil in this universe, and this evil is ignorance. And there's only one real good, and is knowledge. If you cultivate knowledge, not only you will feed your mind, but you will improve your moral standards. Because knowledge is the remedy to prejudice and most of the evil things in this world. I remember my parents would offer me every Christmas as a present a book, though I was crying for a Barbie. But today I very much appreciate their legacy. And I remember in particular, my favorite book is an Italian author called Oriana Fallaci, and the title of this book is Va dove ti porta il cuore, which means go where your heart takes you. I guess today I took this book literally, because the reason why I'm in America is because I followed my heart, and I married my lovely husband there, George Papadopoulos. People here know me as my husband's fiercest defender. But what they don't know about me is that I'm a defender to core. My inner call for justice has been the reason why I became a lawyer, and my curiosity for the world and other culture is the reason why I became an international one. I graduated in Italy, and I specialized in Brussels. I was trained in New York, Washington, Paris, and Milano. My biggest professional achievement today has been working in child protection policies, and in particular at European Parliament, I manage an office for the improvement of child policies in international cases of international child abductions. It has been an overwhelming experience to put my knowledge at the service of the most vulnerable class of people, children. I learned a lot assisting those cases. In particular, I learned the importance of teachers in this critical moment of any human development. Childhood is a special place in anybody's life. It's the moment in which we structure our core of our emotional structure, and where we need the most protection and deserves the most of concern. Child abduction cases, I'm sure you're familiar with that, are very dramatic events. Ripping a child from his environment and from the care of one of the parents is a painful experience and leaves the child completely disoriented. For all those children that have been victims of abduction, their teachers become their sole guidance and often their surrogate parents. During this professional experience, I had the chance to meet incredible people and a remarkable teacher who were the only help and the only savior for these people to become good adults. In particular, I would like to remember one teacher, her name is Giselle, who adopted one of the child she was taking care of, traumatized further a case of abduction. Why I'm telling that is because I truly believe that education is ultimately the path for a better future, a fundamental right for every child, and the foundation of a healthy society. In the end, is the richest asset that any parent can leave to his child. The best selection is to develop critical thinking and not to indoctrinate a child on how to think, and that's where an incredible teacher makes the difference. Indoctrination leads to the most atrocious extremism in history, and we know how education is what frees our mind. We should never forget that progress only happens through freedom of thoughts. Education is the key. And that's why I think tonight I'm so honored to be here with the most remarkable category of professionals, educators, because you guys are the one who can change the future. God bless America.
We will begin with our first inductee tonight, who will be presented by Darren Erickson.
Good evening, my name is Darren Erickson, and it is my honor and privilege to introduce Nancy Mungia Bowman, as one of the newest members of the Ventura County Educators Hall of Fame. I have known Nancy since 1992 when I began substitute teaching in the Conejo Valley Unified School District. Little did I know then that we would be working together for much of her career and just about all of mine so far. In the spring of 1994, I was blessed to join the science department at Westlake High School. And Nancy, although quite intimidating, was very welcoming. Soon we would develop a terrific working relationship and an even better friendship. Nancy began her teaching career in the fall of 1977 at Newbury Park High School. She was a part of the original faculty at Westlake High School in 1978, although both Westlake and Newbury Park had to share campuses during the first semester, while Westlake's campus was being finished. School opened on the Westlake campus during the second semester, and she's been there ever since. Nancy worked just as hard as a basketball coach as she has as an educator. She coached for Camarillo and Thousand Oaks High Schools before starting a long tenure at Westlake from 1981 to 1986 and from 87 to 92. During her Warrior coaching career, Nancy's teams won 5 Marmoni League titles, including 3 straight 30-win seasons. For 22 years, I saw firsthand what a passionate and dedicated educator Nancy is. She puts in many, many hours each year developing her craft, and the results are unbelievable. Nancy began the creation of her anatomy program during the early 90s. She was willing to give up her conference period, and she worked with a small number of students on a single cadaver. 1 cadaver led to 2 the next year, and 3 the year after. Although the official start of her class, known as Honors Advanced Anatomy, was in 1992, it was the immense amount of time and work beforehand that allowed it to begin when it did. In 1993, Nancy received the Amgen Award for Excellence in Teaching, and she was voted the Conejo Valley Teacher of the Year in 2002. And this, of course, is just a tiny drop in a long list of awards that you can see in the program. 28 years later, Nancy's program is known nationwide as a state-of-the-art course that provides a remarkable opportunity for high school students to experience what first-year medical school is all about. Hundreds of students, including one of my own sons, have been blessed to take her class and experience what it's like to have Bo as their teacher. You see, you don't just learn from Mrs. Bowman, you experience Mrs. Bowman. And hopefully, you live to tell about it. Nancy pushes her students to work harder than they've ever thought they could. When students complete the rigorous curriculum that she puts before them, they feel like they're on top of the world. Through it all, students know how much she loves them and cares for them, as is evident by the tremendous number of graduates that have developed lifelong relationships with Nancy. In addition to the outstanding accomplishments in her career, Nancy is a wonderful wife to her college sweetheart Gary and a loving mother to their daughter Shelby. Nancy and Gary will be celebrating 43 years of marriage on the 5th of June. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce my colleague and dear friend, Nancy Bowman.
I retired in 2014 from full-time teaching. I continued to teach my trademark advanced anatomy class at Westlake High School, in fact, just completing my 5th year post-retirement. When I was teaching full-time, I probably averaged about 65 to 70 hours per week, and that was on-site. That does not count the number of hours that I put into my job at home on that free time that I should have had, but was devoted to my teaching. I thought when I retired, but was allowed the privilege of returning to teach my one trademark class, that my hours would be significantly less. And I want you to know that I put in about 45 to 50 hours a week, including Saturdays and an occasional Sunday, and I get paid for 10 hours per week. So you know that if you're going to teach at any level, any subject, that if you're going to do justice to your students, this is what it requires. And you can either call me insane, or you can call me an incredibly generous person to give up all of that time. You know, but the byproduct of that is sitting in this room. I have two former students sitting at table number 5, Ryan and Malia. Ryan, a graduate of UCSD and will eventually enter nursing school. Malia, on the other hand, I could not turn. She will be at USC in the fall with a business major and a minor in nutrition. But, you know, the fruits of my labor are sitting over here at table number 1, Dr. Matt Zaff. Raise your hand, Matt. Class of 2000, graduate of Berkeley, went on to medical school and is now a practicing orthopedic surgeon in the Palm Springs area. And I had the privilege of having him write one of my letters of support. A few other people I want to mention. When I started the program, or I came up with the idea for my vision of advanced anatomy at Westlake High School, Mr. Kurt Love was the principal. And I went to Kurt and I said, Kurt, I have this really great idea, which people know me, know I have all these great ideas, and sometimes they're a bit wacko, but that's besides the point. And after listening to me very patiently, I don't know if you remember this, Kurt, but you said to me, Bo, you can do whatever you want as long as it doesn't cost me any money. So here we are, 27 years, 28 years later, and we are still fundraising thousands upon thousands of dollars to make this program run. But the benefit of that is pride and ownership, right? So it makes a huge difference to the kids that this is truly their program. And I'm going to give you just a brief education because, as Darren mentioned that word, cadavers, you know, we are like that program Bones on TV, or once was on TV, where my students are literally forensic pathologists, exploring the nitty-gritty details of the human body, but from the standpoint of what's wrong, what's not normal. So we do a lot of dissection, it goes without saying. But we are, and I wrote an article at one time and it was entitled, We Are More Than Dissection. And I'm going to come back to that in just a little bit, so please bear with me. So here we are, 93, 94, 95, 96, dissecting. And I got bored, to be perfectly honest. But what I found in visiting medical school libraries, books written by doctors and nurses and books on trauma and this and that. And I thought, oh my gosh, it's fascinating. I must buy these books. My students must read these books. So I bought a boatload of books, had my students read them, and it was not enough to read, but you have to write essays, correct? And then if you're going to assign all those essays to be written, you must read and grade them. And then after a couple of years with that, I got bored because I felt like an English teacher and I never aspired to be an English teacher. So I said, what's the next step? Oh, well, all of my authors are living. So what if I could manage to track down all of these authors and encourage them to read my students' essays? One by one, I did that. It took years to get in contact with all of these authors, but I can tell you right now, every author reads my students' essays. And not only that, 3 to 4 of them per year are in the classroom as our guest speakers. So you just stretch your imagination a little bit and wonderful things happen. I even have a doctor who is a professor of journalism and pediatric medicine at NYU. Now, she wasn't able to come this year, but she sent a beautiful 2-page reply, personalized for the students. How wonderful is that? Okay, so one book in particular struck me, First Do No Harm, Medical Ethics, to save a life, not to save a life. How far are you going to push the envelope? So when I reached out to this particular author, this particular author, we actually had her come from New York, again, to speak to the students in class. But that book gave birth to Biomedical Ethics in Advanced Anatomy. And we have since adopted the book Classic Cases in Medical Ethics, so we can talk about just about everything from an ethical standpoint of view as it relates to medicine and patient care. So, another thing, oh my gosh, what else can we do with that? Well, that book was written about patients in a hospital in Houston, Texas, Memorial Hermann Hospital. I managed to track down one person in Houston that would talk to me about medical ethics. And she gave me, when I visited Houston at one point, an hour of her time, and we developed a connection. And the next year we were doing a telecommunication conference with the chairperson, the vice chair, and a social worker who sat on their ethics committee from Houston all the way to Thousand Oaks. Thank goodness for the Civic Arts Plaza, who happened to have a fabulous telecommunication operation right there on site. So we did that for 2 years, and after 2 years I got bored again. And my boredom led to, I want to go to Houston. I want to take a tour of this hospital. I want to know everything there is to know about every aspect of medicine, and I want to see it firsthand. So I told my kids, you can stay or you can come with me. And for 4 years consecutively in the mid-2000s, I took a team of students from Westlake High School. We had the most fabulous tour, 2-day tour of Memorial Hermann Hospital in Houston and MD Anderson Cancer Center. Unfortunately, after that 4th year, my contact retired, and so we had to retire that field trip to Houston. But that's okay, there were going to be more things to do. And what came next was a surprise thrown to us by the medical school that allocates the cadavers to us. It's not only were we required to document to create a formal pathology report and then present it to the medical school, but now they wanted the kids to come and actually do a live presentation. So on Tuesday of this past week, the 28th, my group of 27 students, divided into 5 groups, were there at Loma Linda University School of Medicine making this giant presentation about their pathological findings to the audience, which consisted of many of their parents as well as representatives from the medical school itself. And they did themselves proud because one of the compliments given to the students was that these presentations were just as good as our first-year med school students. No? Then there was a pause. Just as good as our second and third-year med school students. So this is what we aspire to, and this is what I push the students towards. You begin the year dissecting, and dissecting, and dissecting, with all this infusion of all of these other components to the class. But why do you dissect? So that you can give the most incredibly thorough report, whether it's one cause of death that you're reporting on and 23 additional findings, or whether it's 3 causes of death that you're reporting on and 8 additional findings. But you need to be as good as those medical school students, as confident in yourself as those students, as thorough in knowledge as those students, so that you can do the program in a very, very proud way. And so it is my privilege to continue to teach this class, putting in my 40 to 45 to 50 hours of pure joy. Because to spend time, all this time with those students, in my opinion, there's nothing better. Thank you to the Ventura County Educators Hall of Fame Committee for selecting me. I am very blessed by my students, The people that support me, particularly my husband, Gary D. Bowman, and my daughter, Shelby Bowman. I would not be up here if it were not for them. My husband, who always wished I would really retire, and one of these days I will, because I would like to know what it's actually all about. So thank you for your patience. My husband is also fond of saying that I probably have taken up too much time, but thank you very much.
Very nice. Our next presenter is Robin Freeman.
Good evening. As Dan said, my name is Robin Freeman, and I am recently retired. Actually, it'll be a year next month. And I'm a friend of Mary Samples, so it gives me a great deal of pleasure to introduce her tonight. First, I'd like to ask, raise your hand if you have someone you consider to be a lifelong friend. Well, guess what? I have one too. I met Mary Samples in 1981 and have known her as a friend for 38 years. I came to work in California in 1981 at E.O. Green Junior High School in the Hueneme School District. And in the Hueneme School District, when we were young girls, it was a family. The district seemed small, even though there were 11 schools, and we got to know each other right away. Mary taught 6th grade, and I taught 7th grade English. Even though her classroom was on another side of the campus, we saw each other frequently, and there were lots of opportunities for us to socialize. As our careers grew, Mary left E.O. Green and began teaching 1st grade at Fred Williams School. I took off as a reading specialist. But eventually we both became assistant principals. And the principal who trained us at that time, the two of them had been lifelong friends and colleagues in the district. And so from those two friends, we learned a lot about how to be effective administrators. And we learned some things that we did not want to carry forward. You know how that is, right? So eventually we were both promoted to a principalship. Mary at Fred Williams, and I was at Hathaway School. And these schools bordered each other. And one of the things that we learned was because we were friends, we became collaborators. So when she had a problem, she could call me. When I had a problem, I could call her. We exchanged parents, we exchanged students, we exchanged lots of ideas. I credit Mary with many of the successes that I had in my career as an elementary principal. At one point, Mary left and became the director of special education, actually associate superintendent. And she also was in charge of categorical programs. And at one point I thought that she was going to be my superintendent. I was really excited, but there were bigger plans for Mary. Mary left Hueneme with its 11 principals and special ed team and went to become the director of the Ventura County SELPA. So not just those 11 principals and those special educators in Hueneme, but 20 superintendents, principals in every district in the county, special ed staff at every district in the county, took advice, mentorship from Mary, and we all became better educators for it. I had the good fortune to replace Mary when she left, and she was a phone call away. I had the chance to be the special ed director twice, and if you're out of special education for a moment, things change. The laws change. I was calling Mary, taking notes at her meetings and calling her, what is the blah, 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 and she would always help me. I think she's been a help to every superintendent and every administrator in this county who needed support in special education. And her experience with finance made her an expert and a resource throughout the state with special education funding. So we owe a great deal to Mary Samples, and it is my pleasure to introduce her tonight and introduce her to you as well. Mary Samples.
Thank you all for being here tonight. I sort of realize my age now because I think I know most of you in the room. People think that Ventura County is a big county, but it actually is a very small, close educational community. So I'm very proud to be here. Thank you. Many years ago, I heard a speaker who said that the factor that most determines happiness in life is gratitude. The more you are grateful, the happier you will be. And as the years have passed, I realized how correct those words really are. Tonight, I'm filled with gratitude for so many things, and I'd like to share a few of those with you. I want to express my appreciation to the Ventura County Educator Hall of Fame Committee for allowing me to join a list of so many previous outstanding educator inductees. I am truly honored. I am very grateful that I was blessed with two wonderful children, my daughter Melissa, who's here, and my son Brian, who could not be here with me this evening. They have made much of my career journey with me, and I know that sometimes that was difficult. I hope they know that they have always been and always will be my #1 priority. I am so proud of them as terrific adults, as college graduates, and as two people who have chosen to work in important public service professions. I am grateful to say that I was able to work 44 years in a job that I loved every single day. I was given so many opportunities in different positions and was able to spend a good deal of my career serving and advocating for our special needs students. I am so grateful for the many, many talented colleagues that I've been fortunate to work with alongside with them every day in my years in education. Many of them have become my lifelong friends. They supported me, they helped me, and they helped me grow as a professional. A special shout out goes to the women who are at my table tonight. Each of them deserves to be standing on the stage for all of the significant contributions that they have made in education and to the students that we serve. Thank you all. I'm most grateful to public education and to the thousands of professionals who come to work every day with the goal of making a difference in the lives of children and helping to build outstanding citizens for our future. I actually know this firsthand because, like many of the students we serve, and perhaps even some of you, I began school with many challenges. I grew up in a poor, dysfunctional family. My father had an alcohol problem, and my mother was not a strong individual. My mother had her first child at age 15, and 25 years later, I was born the fifth of 6 children. My father was her third marriage. There were no family vacations, nor no discussions around the dinner table at night. Neither of my parents went to high school, and college was never discussed in our home. Instead of looking forward to college, I actually began working in a donut shop and fast food restaurant when I was 13. It would have been quite easy for me to take a different path and to stray from a positive way of life. But for me, school was my happy place, and I was very fortunate to have dedicated teachers who cared about me and encouraged me to do my best. I remember like it was yesterday, looking up at my 4th grade teacher, Mr. Martinez, and saying to myself, that's what I want to do when I grow up. There were many great educators who followed him. Many of them were role models and mentors to me. I feel I owe my whole career to these people, all because I had wonderful, caring educators who took the time to see something in me and to encourage me to be more of a person than I thought I really was. Those who work in education truly do great work every day, and they do make a difference. I only hope that I have been able to give a fraction of what I got back. Thank you so much for this honor tonight. I am truly grateful.
Now our third presenter of the evening, Velma Lomax.
Good evening again. First, I want to say that I was informed that we left a person off of the list I read earlier. From the class of 2018, Dolores Karn has left us, and we want to just have everyone know that we really appreciated what she gave to our county as well. I've known John Walker for many years. I was a PTSA president at De Anza Middle School, now called Data, out on the west end of Ventura. And he came along to the PTSA people with fresh-baked cookies because he was running for school board. And he went around the entire Ventura Unified School District with a lot of fresh-baked cookies. And we knew right away that John was a very compassionate person, that John believed in public education, that John loved his family immensely, and he would do anything for children in public education. I could go on and on about my personal relationship with John. I was elected to the school board 4 years after he was, being the youngest school board member at the time, and he was my mentor. Now I have to tell you, I've been on the school board long enough. John retired after 29 years. I'm now the oldest school board member on our board. Okay, just so you know. But John was my mentor, and I don't want to go on because I'll cry, because this is my very first year acting as a board member without John there with me. But I can tell you a lot of things about our relationship, but I want to just read a few things from the letters. When I went about at the behest of many people in our community to help to nominate John for this prestigious award, we were gathering all the information and 5 letters of recommendation. Well, that was very hard because several people wanted to be included. So one letter is signed by 3 people, one is by 2 people, and on and on and on. But I'm just going to give you a little excerpt. There's a lot in the program. I'm not going to repeat what's in the program because I'm not going to insult you. I know you all can read.
because I'm sure y'all went to great public schools. From Stan Mann, Ventura County Superintendent of Schools, his last statement says, overall, I consider Mr. John Walker to be a most valuable asset to the fabric of educational history in Ventura County, and his service and accomplishments clearly speak for themselves. John always gave his all, as well as serving on the Ventura Unified School District School Board for 29 years. He served on the Ventura County School Boards Association, which gets all the school boards in the county together throughout the year. He served on that for years. He also served as a delegate for the California School Boards Association, which is the state of California. John was in line to become the president of the CSBA when he unfortunately had a bad medical diagnosis and felt that he needed to step aside, but never gave up. He was still until he retired this past year, a delegate assembly person on the California School Boards Association, and they loved him as well as all of us. A former Buena High School counselor of 41 years, Mr. Gene Batts Jr., who's here with us this evening, said he met John prior to being elected. I'm sure he got some of those cookies too. And he states, and I quote, the trait I admire most about John is his integrity. John's service was not self-promoting. He did not use his position for political or personal gain, and his decisions on any committee was to make Ventura a better place to live. I believe he had one thing in mind, and that was, how can I help make our schools the best educational experience available to our students? Former Superintendent, Ventura Unified School District Superintendent Joe Spirito, who is also with us this evening, he stated that John served with a sense of integrity. He voted what was best for the student, even when the decision was hard or unpopular. John was a frontiersman and took the path least traveled, so long as it was best for students. His leadership style made a difference. Adult Ed, our Ventura Adult and Continuing Education, that's the letter that was signed by 3, probably would have been signed by 20 people if I let them. They said that John was an exceptional person, that we were fortunate enough to have John. John was a leader in helping Adult Ed to become the fabulous educational facility it is today. Kim Ballou, who led our Project Secure for special education students, couldn't say enough nice things about John. And he said that the issues that John had worked on are too numerous to compile in this brief letter. I would like to acknowledge his dedication to public service to the students, employees, and those at VUSD with a sense of purpose and achievement. John was able to enable all of these responsibilities and complete our mission for the schools. Our education associations, both classified and certificated, together signed a letter saying that John had received many, many accolades from the association, who's who in education, and on, and they said in his 29 years of service, Mr. Walker has been an advocate for students, educators, staffs, and families within VUSD. He has improved the lives of all with his compassion, intelligence, and dedication and integrity. It is my honor to recommend him for this award. A parent who actually was also a PTA president on the east end of town and got those fresh baked cookies, she wrote a letter and she said that even John always served with integrity. And when she called John one day about the fact that her grandson did not get into one of our lottery schools, John explained that he even had similar situations with his family, but we don't pull strings in our district. And everyone commented on John's integrity. I was honored to compile this book for you, John, to get you where you are tonight. And I'm honored to call you my friend. And I'm very pleased that the Ventura County Educators Hall of Fame has chosen to honor John Walker tonight.
Cheering section helps. Y'all know when lifetime
comes, would you write my obituary?
Never. I want to go first.
Thank you. Before I start, I got to say something about Dr. Cowan. Early in my career, I worked for Verizon, and I was a sales manager for Ventura County. And one of the good things that we got to do was take people to sporting events. I became such good friends with Dr. Cowan because, as you know, he loves sports. Every time I saw him, he would always say, "When's the next Dodger game?" or whatever sport, Lakers. I became a very good friend, especially during basketball season. So we had a great time, and I always appreciate that. And thank you, Dr. Weiss. First of all, I want to say how honored and happy I am to be here and to be one of the recipients of the Hall of Fame. My journey here tonight began in 1969, fresh out of the Marine Corps and the divisive Vietnam War. I decided to continue my high school quest from becoming a school teacher by enrolling in Cerritos Community College. From there, I went on to Long Beach State, where I completed my economics degree and most of my coursework towards a teaching credential, all while working full-time and raising a family. Graduating in 1975 and ready to start my student teaching, I found myself in a really difficult position, as there were very few districts that were hiring teachers during that time. Kathy, my very supportive wife, and I had concerns even if and when I finished school, would I be able to get a job? And as you all know, student teaching doesn't pay much. Therefore, I decided to forego teaching for a few years and continue my job with Verizon, or GT in those days, and pursue my degree, or pursue my dream of teaching later in life. As it turned out, I stayed with Verizon for 34 years, especially after they paid for a very expensive Pepperdine MBA. Don't you wish teachers had that? That school districts could do that? Yeah. Put that in the suggestion box, Dr. Rice. However, along the way in 1989, with our two daughters in school, I found a way to live out my dream by serving public education. I had a mother-in-law and a wife who both encouraged me to run for school board. I joined the Unified Ventura Board in 1989 after quite a testy election. I'm sure Dr. Joe Spirito, who is here with us tonight, who was assistant superintendent at the time, remembers those first few rocky years that I had. I remember my election platform very well. Run the school district like business, and you can't fail. Well, I see some of you are smiling because now you know what I found out soon. It wasn't quite that simple. It wasn't before long I came to the realization that public education was vastly different than private enterprise. But as it was, there were employee associations, fellow school board members, and administrators who came to my rescue with a lot of well-intentioned advice and guidance. And that continued for 29 years, actually. During my 29-year tenure on the board, a lot has happened. We passed bonds, built schools, relocated the district office, expanded adult education, hired new superintendents, capped lifetime medical benefits. I will give Jerry Danneberg credit for that. You're the one that did it, but I'm going to take the credit. That's what school board members do, right? So I appreciate all of that, but it was quite an exciting time. And also during that time, as you heard Velma say, I worked with the Ventura County School Boards Association as well as the Board of Directors for the California School Boards Association. I was fortunate to serve on a number of statewide education committees and commissions. Most recently, I had the privilege of representing the School Boards Association to CIF for the last 5 years, and I served on the Federated Council for 5 years. That was the funnest part of being a school board that I had, I can tell you. I enjoyed that immensely. It has been an incredible journey, one that I will always treasure. While I really wanted to be in the classroom, being a board member was a great alternative. I always felt a connection with teachers, administrators, classified students, and parents. While it seems trite at sometimes, I do believe that if you make school board decisions based on what's best for children, it's hard to go wrong. Not saying that's always been easy, but it should be, as educators, our moral compass. After working for Verizon for 34 years, I retired and went to work for the Ojai Unified School District as Personnel Director and Risk Manager for another 12 years. That is where I really observed the inner workings and the other side of the table about our school district. That's where I witnessed the many struggles facing our schools, employees, students, and our communities. What I learned most is that public education is only successful if we work as a team. As a board member, I was limited in what I could do, or even what I should do. It was the work of teachers, support personnel, administration, and the superintendent who did the work and deserve all the credit. A well-functioning school district only happens when there's a well-functioning staff. We work together as a team. That is mandatory. In my 29 years on the board, I served with 5 superintendents and 13 different board members. Some of them are here tonight, Dr. Spirito, as well as board members Velma Lomax, Jim Wells, Jackie Moran, and I think that's all. Okay, just to make sure. As well as there are other administrators here tonight, as well as Martha Macias, who always supported the board in everything that we did. She was the superintendent's right-hand person. I want to thank all of them for my school board experience, and I hope I have been helpful to them as well. I have so many to thank for their guidance, suggestions, and support, and even when all else failed beside that, I pray. Pastor Jim, it's terrible that we make that the last thing we do. As I look across this room, I see people filled with, who care immensely about the children of this country. We come from all walks of life, benefits, and political persuasions. Sometimes we come together for the good of students. Somehow we come together for the good of our students as well as our nation. What a grand country we live in. Several days ago, I had the privilege of visiting the 2019 Ventura Teacher of the Year, Mr. Sand, who we recently honored at Isabel Middle School, and whom we recognize tonight. What a great feeling it was for me to witness how the students appreciated him. One of his 7th grade students, without my prompting, told me how much she loved his class and what a great teacher he was. On the other hand, there was a student sitting just across from her who said, well, he might be just a little bit too strict. I said, well, I think that's because he was a Marine. I told her someday she would be glad that he was strict. His classroom is where our nation's future lies. Thank goodness for a teacher like Mr. Sam and the work he does unceasingly. This morning, today, I attended the commissioning of a Foothill High School graduate, Carlos Cohen Jr. Carlos, his father is the principal of Ventura High School. Today, after recently graduating from Yale University, he was commissioned an officer in the United States Marine Corps. He didn't get there by himself. It took teachers, counselors, support staff, and of course, very supportive parents. Together, they were his support system. Finally, I want to thank my family, Kathy, my partner in life for the last 52 years we've been married, who is also an elementary school office manager for over 30 years. And by the way, if you're a board member married to somebody in a position like a school office manager, she will keep you straight. She will tell you right from wrong. And also my daughter Rhonda Grant, who followed my steps in the business world at Verizon and is still there, as well as Dr. Christine Walker, who followed some of my other footsteps into the education community. Because I think I was on the school board before you ever became a teacher, if I remember correctly. So I feel good as a dad that those things happen. She is now the successful superintendent at Wainimi, and we're so proud of her. You can only imagine our family get-togethers. Our grandchildren who are here tonight, Brooklyn, Chase, Grace, and Silas, along with my son-in-law Brett, just roll their eyes when we start talking school talk around the turkey. Together, they have supported me through 7 school board elections, sometimes even walking precincts with me. Like everything else in life, all things come to an end. I remain active in every way that I can to support our kids through my Kiwanis Club, or as a Key Club advisor at Buena High School, or through my church involvement, or any other way I can serve. In closing, thank you to the Ventura County Educators Hall of Fame, the Ventura Unified School Board, Dr. Rice, Dr. Spirito, Jim Wells, and my former Sunday school teacher of 60 years ago, Mr. Joe DeVito, who was a former mayor of Ojai and also a teacher and administrator of the Ojai Unified School District. Along with my friends, Pastor Jim Duran, Roger Newstad, and Ellen Carpenter. Thank all of you for helping bring me to where I am today. And a special thank you to Mr. Gene Badstuber. He was one of those folks in my school board career that would often call me to tell me when I got astray. And, you know, believe it or not, I did appreciate that. The conversations were often long, but they were meaningful. That is a school counselor that cares about schools, and he's still working and volunteering at Cabrillo Middle School today in Woodshop. So again, thank you for all of those involved, and thank you for allowing me to be here tonight.
One thing that is most important. When I was asked in 1997 to become a school teacher, never dreamed to be a school teacher in my life, this man encouraged me. This man helped me to find my passion and the difference I've made for students. And John, I thank you for that. And for all of you in the room, there are 3 posters on the table over here that you can sign honoring the 3 inductees tonight that they will have framed. So please don't forget to sign before you leave.
Yeah, I want to let you guys know I'm taking Dave on Friday.
It's truly an honor to be here tonight.
We can't hear you.
It's truly an honor to be here tonight in front of those who are supporting and who truly are 100% extraordinary individuals, each and every one of them. Folks, thank you very much for serving and doing what you do in making a profession that makes all other professions possible. God bless each and every one of you. And I want to take a little bit of a lesson from Joe Montana. And I want to throw it to Mr. Rice. Is Roger in here? Roger, come here. The strategy to win Super Bowls, folks. Roger, close this out and send them home.
Nothing like a surprise. I'm really proud of all of our inductees this evening. Drive safe, celebrate your honor this evening. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend.